So, you've made a game. Like an actual, real life game. And people like it, but they have some minor gripes here and there with how you run the ship. And so, game maintenance happens. It's one of the best and most straightforward ways to show your player base that you woke up this morning and just decided to give a damn. I even covered a few of the patch notes way back when Elden Ring was first getting its legs, quest lines didn't work, and PvP exploits took weeks off of some players' lives. And honestly, it feels weird looking back at these, because I always felt like these were some of the lowest effort videos I ever made, yet they're pretty much unanimously liked for some reason. I don't know, that always felt strange. Anyways, Elden Ring has been patched a grand total of 27 times, including the official day 1 release, meaning there are 27 builds of the game. It's been patched 26 times. If that, makes sense. Not all of them were listed on the website, which I found very peculiar, but I'm not including the 1.00 build in this because that version wasn't a public release, so we're just gonna keep things nice and simple and start at 1.02. Criteria for this one was a little tough to figure out. Public opinion can take any list like this and scatter it around like a lane of freshly used bowling pins, so to keep things as simple as possible, I'm just gonna stick to the basic beats, which is just how much content the patch offers. So if a patch is nothing but bug fixes, then it's probably gonna rank pretty low, and if I feel like an exception should be made, then I'll just point it out as I get to it. Good plan? Good plan. Alright, let's get it. Number 27, patch 1.10.1. I don't know how I can represent this list in complete fairness and not have this update be dead last. Pushing out an update that makes only one minor change is already a little uncommon, but unlike the others in this particular subgenre of updates that I will be mentioning soon, this one change is not a balancing or optimization change. It's not even an undoing of a previous mistake like some of these are. In this patch contains a single line that reads, "Easy anti-cheat update to support the Steam OS update." They dedicated a whole patch to this singular change. There is a website on the official site right now taking up precious, increasingly limited digital space in the ether by telling people this information. We will continue to provide improvement updates in the future. I mean, you sure wasn't fucking doing that here, so I guess I can't call it wrong. People had to update mods for this shit. I would like a word with all 230 of you, by the way. Number 26, patch 1.9.1. This update is a noticeably rare case in Elden Ring's patch history because this would be one of the only times in the game's history where an update was pushed out and actually ended up breaking more than it tried to fix. There was a bug with Contagious Fury that allowed you to not only throw it on and keep it on when put away, but it could also be applied twice just by switching hands. The double application was easily identified as a bug pretty quickly, but a lot of players had requested around this time that they at least look at Contagious Fury and, just rework it a bit, and when people thought that's what happened, only for it to be taken away a week later, the disappointment was palpable. Players quickly discovered an issue with the skill that, when activated, would completely nullify damage done from some spells like Flame of Frenzy, Catch Flame, and Swarm of Flies. Similar issues popped up on other buffing tools like Golden Vow. That dumb shit with the Tree Spear happened. This whole patch was just a mess. I feel sorry for the person who had to clean this up. Number 25, patch 1.03.3, or 1.03 in parentheses? Why does this only happen with 2 updates on the website? Well, this is just one bug fix that was released almost 2 weeks later after 1.03 that control-Z's the damage nerf given to Star Scourge Radahn that got shipped out alongside the hitbox corrections by accident. This is also why you hear so many players, myself included, mistakenly label this boss as nerfed. Yeah, he definitely got easier to fight, and players definitely noticed this, but that was because his attack hitboxes no longer felt like they were ported from a PS1. That had nothing to do with his damage output. Now, this is a huge disclaimer I'm throwing out because I understand modding the game and making the game are multiple universes apart from each other. How the fuck do you make this mistake? I'm gonna be honest. At what point does the workflow of changing hitbox accuracy ever cross into the realm of, oh shit, his swords are movie props now? Fucking whoops. I don't want to sound like I'm talking shit here. Honestly, this just makes me even more curious about what the official workflow must be versus a bunch of chuckle fucks on Nexus giving Ronnie size 29 dogs and a French accent. Number 24, patch 1.02.3. This did read like a much more important change than the aforementioned, which is why I felt it fair to place it just above 1.03.3, because despite this update being a one-trick pony, it had to do with the fact that gamepads connected to your PC just didn't take for some reason. The game just looked at it and said, nah, brother, that's some Trojan horse bullshit. I ain't putting that in my system. And I guess someone had to go into the admin section and greenlight it to, fuck, look at my unwiped, double-cheeked ass pretending to understand how any of this works. Shut up, Rusty, bitch. Controllers wouldn't be recognized sometimes, and this patch fixes the fucking hell out of it. That's all I got. Normally, I would criticize the obscurity and lack of details here, because that is a visible problem, but I genuinely don't know what you could add here that anyone would even give a shit about. Like, yeah, controllers work now. Catch us on a Steam sale. I guess it did include a second detail that involves certain equipment not appearing, but I'm not counting this as an actual update because they didn't even change anything. They just reminded you to verify your game files. Like, okay, I'm sorry, am I on the phone with fucking Windstream right now? Did I really just get the turn it off and back on again treatment? Y'all have no idea how close I was to just flat out missing this one. Like, the anti-cheat update gets its own webpage, but a patch about certain items just not existing gets a fucking tweet? Number 23, patch 1.02.1. We've arrived at the very first post-launch patch the game received, and it's written with all the detail you'd expect it to be. I'm not kidding, this shit reads like a middle-aged woman's grocery list. Reading on what this patch changed also gave me a laugh for another reason, because it reminded me this one awkward week after launch where the game just didn't like have any background music. I completely forgot this was even a thing. I'd love to know more specifics of this patch, but I ain't going on a scavenger hunt for whatever the fuck text adjustments and balance adjustments are referring to. And NPC event fixes, I'm surprised is even in here, because this game had a pretty huge problem with its NPC quests, and it persisted for, well, way longer than when this update came out. I will say, however, that this really puts into perspective the uptick in writing quality the patch notes would end up receiving over time, because this is their first update, and I cannot stress enough how much this reads like a Google Doc checklist someone made at 3 a.m. on their phone because they couldn't sleep. Yeah, you know those videos making fun of like badly written patch notes or whatever? We're gonna reach a very visible point where that's just what this video becomes. Like, we're gonna get to it soon, but I'm gonna be honest, there's some gold in here. Number 22, patch 1.16. Fuck you. You know how comfortable I got not updating any of the mods I make for this shit? Fixed an issue where temporary boosts to player stats would remain even after closing and restart. Holy shit. How does something like this even happen? And I don't know if this is something they fixed or a warning that this might happen, but the subsequent and only other line of text in the whole update just says, in the PC version, the message inappropriate activity detected may appear even if you're not cheating. Honestly, my uncultured ass could never bring myself to give a shit about PvP or co-op, or anything related to people for that matter. But if I did enjoy it and I saw this message when I booted up the game, the velocity of the shit leaving my shorts would leave a crater in my gamer chair. I don't think this is a bug fix either, because it would usually say so at the very beginning. This seems more like a cautionary notice that you might just be given a couple seconds of rage and panic upon entering the game, which is always nice. At least they're saying it's a bug, but like, holy shit, this kind of seems pretty important to fix, like as soon as you see it. Number 21, patch 1.02.2. So I wanted to rank all the 1.02 patches together, but I think each of these has a wide range of what they all fix, despite each patch just being nothing but bug fixing and troubleshooting. When compared with the two aforementioned patches in 1.02, this one doesn't really bring a lot to the table, but fixed an issue where the graphics card wasn't being used. That's pretty bad. Like, you should fix that like fucking pronto, especially since we're this close to launch. Fixed a bug that caused the game to quit under certain conditions during a battle with the fire giant. Okay, I'm having trouble picturing this. Would the game literally just shut down mid-boss for like no reason? Has anyone, okay, if anyone remembers experiencing this bug, please let me know what it was, because I do not remember this at all. There was also a change to the PS5 edition of the game where a bug was fixed that involved save game progression. There's not a lot of nuance I can add to that one. I lost 800 hours of Night Rain save data recently, so I personally think making fun of someone for lost save data is deserving of the death penalty. Which is also why I haven't been making that much Night Rain shit, by the way. Like, just give me a bit. I'm working back up to it. Number 20, patch 1.08.1. An update this small that immediately follows the Colosseum update is destined to fall into obscurity, but at least the two things it aims to fix were actually somewhat important. Something in 1.08 was affecting crouch poking with certain weapons in the main hand, and 8 days later, a hotfix came out that allows crouch poking with all weapons again. The invasion compass also got just like yeeted or some shit. I don't know, I'm not too familiar with this one. Apparently the multiplayer icon on the compass just disappeared for a while, and you just couldn't see who else was in the world with you, and it was really annoying, and you actually had to like use your eyes or some shit, and it is dumb and stupid. 1.08 actually got me to play PvP a good amount temporarily at least, and I barely remember this happening. In fact, the one thing I do remember about this patch is the thousands of gallons of boiled piss over the fact that they still hadn't nerfed Bloodhound Step yet. Well, I mean, they did, it wasn't enough, apparently. Number 19, patch 1.16.1. Okay, so I had no idea this sort of thing even had its own name, but there's a glitch that got removed. Well, it didn't get completely removed. I'm pretty sure you can still do it, but it was a glitch that involved the wrong affinities or status buffing a weapon when you did things. I don't want to tell people how to do it because people abuse this a lot in PvP, and I'm pretty sure it's still in the game. Anyways, it's called tumble buffing, and the reason this was such a problem was because this could also be done with ailments like sleep and death blight. So this bug fix is referring to that glitch that you could do and still probably can. Another bug involves players bypassing being blocked. And according to the bug fix, you could do this on any platform. So only 2 bug fixes here. Not really exciting content being generated, if I'm being honest. Instead of nerf or nothing, it's no nerfs and no nothing. This update don't got shit. Number 18, patch point 1.07.1. Changes in the 1.07 update were incorrectly mentioned. What? The incantations Flame of the Fell God and Gurank's Beast Claw cannot be charged. Okay, I'm sorry, did I write this patch note? This is history we're witnessing now, by the way. In case you don't realize what's happened here, this is a patch note that patches a patch note. Black Blade is currently missing its follow-up attack when cast from the left hand. Okay, so that just doesn't work. The issue will be corrected in a future. Okay, so you just didn't even fix it. Holy shit, brother, I could fix this. I will show you how to fix this right now. Okay, so this is Anim Studio by Meow Meredith. It's a tool a lot of you are probably familiar with. Okay, so I'm in the 500s right now. Black Blade is 516, so you just press F3. There you go, enter that shit in. Here are the right-hand animations, and here are the left-hand animations. They're separated by 100. That's how you know it's left-hand. There's one keyframe you have to change to initiate follow-ups, and it's this keyframe right here. Watch how easy this is. Take this number and just add 5 to it, so it looks like this. This was literally all you had to do. Sure, yeah, modding a game and making a game aren't the same, fucking whatever. It took me 30 seconds to fix this, and you're saying this is an issue that couldn't be fixed immediately as it was found. I know it sounds like I'm bitching for no reason here, but like, I don't know, it's like fucking billion-dollar company. Like, stupid, goddamn. Number 17, patch 1.13.2. Each patch, this has taken me like 3 takes. I'm gonna fuck something up here, I just know it. There's a few bug fixes here, but no balancing, no additional content, new features, none of that good-ass pudding we're used to seeing. Just one bug fix that takes the Death Blight effect off of Deadly Poison Spray, and a couple other multiplayer fixes that just kinda made it sound like standing in a corner of Shadow Altus during a Tuesday evening sunset with a half-pound sandbag on your head prevented you from doing the co-op or something. First time I'm hearing of it, and no one else I asked knew what the fuck I was talking about, so I'm just left to assume people didn't care. Also, why is it always death? That's the only status that ever gets affected by stuff like this. Like, it's not madness or sleep. Fire's Deadly Sin had the same problem 6 fuckatillion years ago, and that was also with Death Blight. I don't know, maybe IGN made another video that told you how to use this exploit too. Very minimal bug fixes outside of this one here, and almost all of them have to do with multiplayer optimization. And after the Coliseum update came and went, it always felt like an overwhelming majority of the player base already had a kind of a resigned attitude towards anything to do with PvP. Also, some attacks from the Red Bear NPC got nerfed. Or I guess they fixed a bug that accidentally gave him the power of a demigod or something. Alright, so he got nerfed. This does raise an important question. Well, it's not an important question at all, but it's something I've been thinking about with increasing frequency as I read through all of these. If you fixed a bug that gave an item or a weapon or an NPC or whatever more attack power, sometimes I think it's better to just say, okay, this got nerfed. It depends on the nature of the bug fix, of course, but if one of your patch notes reads like, we fixed a bug that caused rolling sparks to do more damage, then it's like, okay, so you nerfed it. That's what it is. It sounds nitpicky and irrelevant. And it is nitpicky and irrelevant, so I'm gonna move on before people get mad. Number 16, patch 1.03.2. I mean, it's more bug fixes, not much happening here. I guess they accidentally added a death wall or something to that one side of the Bestial Sanctum where you find the Tinquidea, because this patch removes that. And coming right off the heels of the questline patch that was supposed to add new quest phases to a lot of the early game NPCs, there was also a bug that prevented Nefeli's quest from being done at all. So obviously not something you can just sweep under the rug here. Endure also had problems going off, apparently? I don't know, I don't remember this one. It took a whole ass spelunking expedition to even find out this patch existed. I thought the only patch between 03 and 04 was that one update that reverted the Radon nerf. Like, I could not find this shit anywhere. It's not even listed on their website. I only found it because patch 1.03.3 links to it in a previous updates section in a hyperlink that's incorrectly labeled 1.03.02. Well, now I'm fully convinced. If the website itself can't even give a shit, all the player base is gonna do is just follow suit. Number 15, patch 1.04.1. Fixed a bug that caused some bosses to die at unintended times is a hilariously unspecific and just downright bad way to write this problem out. One, this with no extra details on top of it just makes it sound like bosses would get tired of your shit mid-fight and just spontaneously combust or something. And two, and this might get corrected later in the comments, but I'm like 90% sure that this problem was only with one boss, which was the fire giant. Spontaneous combustion visuals not included, this bitch would literally just rip off his own leg and die upon triggering his final phase. And a week after 1.04, this patch got released and fixed it again. Melania would sometimes heal herself when using certain attacks, even if they didn't hit you. Fuck you, shove it up your ass. And there was also a bug that massively downtuned the duration of Cerulean Hidden Tier, and I remember gallons of piss boiling over this because it was never actually mentioned in 1.04, leading to people believing that it had been stealth nerfed, but it ended up being fixed pretty quickly. I can understand why they were so quick to push this one out. Like, bosses just getting turbo cancer and dying on the spot would ruin the intended experience for a lot of people. And since the game was barely 2 months old at the time, this is obviously something you would want to, avoid. I don't want to rank this one too high because there's not a lot of substance here, just fixing mistakes that should have never made it in, but it's a fine patch. Prevents a lot of bullshit. Number 14, patch 1.15. Okay, so we're almost out of the only bug fixes territory of this video. There were a whole lot more of these than I was expecting. This patch was only out for 2 weeks until the game got updated again, so it's not like people were expecting a second DLC or anything, but there were some changes to the Golem Fist that involved some attacks just not dealing any damage, and patch 1.13 actually added what was supposed to be a fix to that by giving it an additional hitbox, and this turned out to be a mistake that had the weapon handing out global warming level damage. And since we can never have anything good or fun, 1.15 puts a lid on that shit. Of course, Smithing Talisman now works with the Golem Fist throwing attacks, so I don't think we can technically call it a nerf, but now it just feels like this weapon is whatever. Go watch that fucking video if you want to hear my opinion on it. There was another bug that got patched where you could use boluses to use a weapon skill on a weapon that doesn't have it, and the reason why this was such a problem was because people saw the glitch was there for maybe like 10 seconds and immediately thought to use the Eclipse Shotel's Death Flare on a bunch of random shit that shouldn't be using it, marking I think the 89th time in Elden Ring's history that PvP would just become unplayable for a week for some stupid reason. Ray tracing might be enabled, I guess, and the message inappropriate activity wow, they're still having this issue, huh? How many patch notes does this come up in? Number 13, patch 1.05. Alright, holy fuck. I've never seen an entire game studio get the same level of canceled as like a check mark on Twitter. I think this patch got really close. So what was wrong with it? Bell-bearing items carry over to New Game Plus now. Alright, that's cool, I guess. The Grace menu also got a rework to make flask changes be a bit more straightforward. Alright, what else? Oh, you buffed Fingerprint Shield. And you made Ice Spear shittier. Okay, I thought stunning fuckers at close range was just something that was intended, but I guess not. What else? Oh, oh by fucking god, it's this update, holy shit. Chain casting spells just doesn't exist anymore. So something millions of people thought was just part of the game was actually some elite ball knowledge speedrun wizard tech that also just happened to make casting more fun. And you can't do that anymore. This, in combination with them ignoring things that were egregiously abused in PvP for a long time now, like Corpse Piler and Bloodhound Step, led to a lot of players starting to build the conclusion that this was just the intended experience. And understandably, it was an experience a lot of players intently opted out of. Fixed a bug that caused Melania to have low HP in certain... Well, we can't fucking have that. Seppuku got nerfed. Pulley Crossbow glitch got patched. Waves of Darkness actually got fixed, which was something I remember, like, always bitching about. I always thought this patch was kind of good, and then realized what PvPers had to say about it. Then again, I'm guessing that happens a lot. Number 12, patch 1.14. It's cool that they actually cared enough to give the final boss its own section without spoiling it, but I think this may have resulted in some unintentionally vague descriptions that didn't come out as detailed as they probably should have. Like, things like decreased damage and changing action pattern at battle start are both specific enough, but adjusted some attack moves that could mean literally anything that hasn't already been written down. Like, the visibility adjustment absolutely needed to happen. I could have fried an egg on my GPU at the start start of his second phase, and I was running that bitch under a 4080. But then they nerfed the spread crossbow to where it can no longer headshot after they just decreased the status buildup of it in another previous patch. They flattened great shields by buffing small and medium shields so much that they unintentionally overshadow their bigger brothers, which I'll admit feels more good than bad, I think. At least they didn't nerf great shields. And the one redeeming quality the Swift Spear may have had gets completely taken away, which was its recovery time. Now it's not really Swift at all, it's just Spear. And we already have one of those. I do appreciate the various buffs to skills like Dynastic Sickle Play and spells like Divine Bird Feathers and Bale's Tyranny, but it just should not have taken you this long for you to figure out Godfrey Icon. Just didn't work with half the shit introduced in the DLC, like, I'ma be honest. Number 11, patch 1.09. I'm not too crazy about this one, but it is one of their first updates that actually have more balance changes than bug fixing, so I guess that means I have to put it somewhere up here. I have a very faint memory of something in this patch just being a lie. Like, I feel like people tested Founding Reign of Stars and found literally no difference whatsoever, but that might be wrong, I don't know. It's a PvP exclusive change, so people may have just made it up. Inescapable Frenzy and Lifesteal Fist both got buffs, and, well, that's what it says, at least. Terra Magica, Contagious Fury, Wave of Gold, all nerfed. Oh, but if you're only PvE, you probably had a fucking feast. Claw weapons deal more damage. What the fuck? Huh? Yeah, if Raptor Talons was starving for anything, it was definitely bigger numbers. A lot of buffs to different weapon classes that have a clear focus on speed and recovery time, which I think is always nice. A few other weapon classes got buffs related to stat scaling, which is also always nice. And I learned today that the Great Club never had its additional holy damage with faith scaling until after 1.09, which I guess was something I just Mandela'd my brain into thinking was always there. Rolling distance for lightweight builds were decreased, and this was apparently important to quite a bit of players. Like, I don't think I ever heard people requesting this change. I had only heard of people requesting it, but they did increase the travel distance if you were a lightweight build back in 1.06, and apparently it was too much. There's also a huge list of various weapon ashes and spells that received their own individual adjustments, but listing those out one by one for every patch would probably delay this upload to fucking July. But I think the only other noticeable adjustment I haven't mentioned yet was the buffing of the Twin Blade Talisman, and oh my god, they torqued this talisman's balls and then stabbed it in the neck with a heroin needle. 45% more damage is some juicy ass beef when you're power stancing shit, since you only have 3 to 4 attacks to mash through. It's not even that practical, but that has me getting myself killed trying to reach the end of a combo now. Like, it's that good. Oh, and I guess flails got buffed. Nobody gave a shit. I'm reading it right now and I don't give a shit. Number 10, patch 1.04. Wow, people really did not like this one, and I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea why. Even when the patch got released, I remember a lot of people saying this patch, like, ruined the game for them, and, like, obvious over-dramatization aside, the only change I actually remember people getting kinda angry at was the Swarm of Flies nerf, and that shit was already in a ridiculously good spot considering the arcane scaling fix that just recently happened around this time. It wasn't like a game-changing patch or anything, but I think a lot of the bitterness that happened as a result of 1.03 just kinda carried over to the subsequent patches for the next few months, because it seemed like every base game patch afterwards just ruined the game for like 2 people from Idaho or some shit. Like, it just didn't stop. There were actually some really helpful bug fixes in this one too. Like, this was the update that corrected a pretty widely hated bug with the Karian Retaliation Ash, where the swords that spawned would not only be invisible in PvP, but would also deal like unreasonably high damage if you had it on an upgraded shield, like multiple thousands of damage. And this shit you can proc completely by yourself, just using like a glintstone scraps or something, so this was a pretty massive problem. Some of the bug fixes in this patch also have pretty hilarious wording. Adds a protective barrier to mill... Yeah, apparently some people would jump down from a weird angle and accidentally land on her during the final stage of her quest in the Halig Tree, and that would just... that would be it. She just died. Quest over. Number 9, patch 1.12.2. Okay, so this patch contains precisely one major change, and for me to place this update so far above everything else I've mentioned thus far, well, this cafeteria better be handing out some fucking gravy. This update actually contains what is debatably the single largest change they ever made to anything that has to do with the DLC, which is the Shadow Tree buff scaling unique to the DLC. The old scaling before this update was way more streamlined and had a more even even distribution between shadow levels. But this update makes it to where your attack power and damage negation are both massively cranked up when finding the first few fragments, and the buff potency begins to taper off more gradually until it hits kind of a soft cap after you reach shadow level 12. Now, the very first Shadow Tree fragment you find just straight up gives you 10% attack power versus anything in the DLC, when on day 1 you would have only gotten 5%. The maximum attack power and damage negation you got at level 20 also increased, with your attack power now climbing to 105% versus the 100% bonus you'd get pre-patch, and instead of 50% damage negation, you would now get 51. Fucking ooh. This is the only change the update contains, but this is obviously a pretty enormous one, and it was a change a lot of people were a big fan of, especially since we're hot off the DLC's release when finding all 50 of the fragments. And while it didn't feel impossible, but a player's first priority was just, beating the DLC. Eventually, community knowledge got to spreading around. People learned you could just completely bypass the first 2 main bosses and arrive in Shadow Altus in like 10 minutes, and with that knowledge, finding enough Shadow Tree fragments to stay comfortably above the difficulty curve wasn't really a big deal anymore. And the more I reflect on what they added, the more I'm a fan of it, honestly. Gathering fragments during the earlier parts of the game feels more convenient, and you no longer feel this pressure to be at max level just to beat the DLC. At least I thought that. That's what I think. Number 8, patch 1.12.3. I'm putting this one over the Shadow Tree Blessing buff because even though this particular update contains changes that are significantly less impactful, part of me is honestly just surprised they listened this closely to any of what the player base has to say. Like, these fuckers have like Odin crows nesting in our ceilings or some shit. The vacuum bullet produced by Swift Slash got nerfed in PvP. Rest in piss, go to hell, bozo. But it also stayed the exact same in PvE, which I think ended up pleasing the maximum amount of players you possibly could have. Additionally, and this is the surprising part to me, if you challenged Commander Gaius, died, and then had to re-enter the boss arena via fog wall, Gaius will actually relocate all the way to the back of the arena when you first encountered him. And this is huge because Gaius used to just Black Ops spawn camp your ass by waiting right in front of the wall and immediately charging at you as soon as you made it inside. I almost wish they would have explored like a middle ground here, because now it feels like there's a certain window of time where you have to buff yourself, or else it's not optimal because he just takes so long to get to you. Karian's Sorcery Sword got a small uptick in scaling while having its base damage decreased. Smith's Grip Daggers go just a little further now. Golden Hippo hitboxes and Rolling Sparks are significantly less bullshit. There's just a lot of good changes in this one. The only change I'm still not a fan of is how they sledgehammered the affinities on Smith's Grip weapons, and I kinda thought they were fine where they were. Number 7, patch 1.10. A lot of people might remember this one. This was the last big update before the DLC arrived, and a lot of the changes that sounded relatively small on paper ended up being, well, I mean, it literally changed the fucking game. Like, saying a huge deal is honestly just underselling it. Major critical hit buffs. It's now easier to land critical hits against other players. Recovery time is wicked fast now if you whiff. Everything just deals more poise damage in PvP now, and a bunch of other changes and bug fixes that a lot of players seemed to really like. I actually kind of like how they mathed everything out too. The poise damage dealt by the first attack of a weapon combo is always like noticeably higher than the second hit, and this is true for just about every weapon class in Elden Ring. I think the only exceptions are daggers, perfume bottles, and dueling shields. This essentially means getting hit by the first attack of a weapon combo would very conveniently line you up for the next hit, but anything outside of a 1-2 punch with any weapon of your choice becomes significantly harder to land. I'm not gonna make a 15-minute video covering all the math that they did with this, since I think Krite already did a pretty great job with that, so here's that video, go watch it. Oath of Vengeance now only grants 20% damage reduction in PvP compared to the original 40, and all the fortification buffs took a massive hit, going from 35% protection all the way down to holy shit. Okay, so there's actually no reason to use these in PvP, goddamn. The higher level counterparts also got nerfed from 60 to 20%, and I can understand that. Like, 60% does feel a bit too generous sometimes, but what's even funnier is that all the dried livers got nerfed as well, making them only offer 10% protection in PvP. But the update never even fixed the holy liver bug, which gives you 35% in PvE compared to the 15% given by the others. This has been a known issue since launch. Like, brother, just change one number. Actually, you know what? Hold on. I'm gonna, let's see, dried liver. Nope. Okay, so this shit is still in the game. Number 6, patch 1.13. Ah yes, the famed Spirit Summon patch. Wandering Nobles will no longer stagger as easily. Nomad will no longer stagger as easily. Skeletal Militiaman won't stagger as easily, but the Skeletal Bandit won't stagger as easily. Winged Misbegotten will no longer stagger as easily. Claymen no longer stagger as easily. Lone Wolves no longer stagger as easily. Rotten Stray won't stagger as easily. Land Squirts have increased HP. And will no longer stagger as easily. Will no longer stagger as easily. Will no longer stagger as easily. This one won't stagger as easily. Now this one won't actually stagger as easily. Will no longer stagger as easily. Won't stagger as easily. Nohoya kantan ni yorokenaku naru. Won't stagger as easily. Won't stagger as easily. God, I love this patch. I love how stupidly put together it is, because any previous naming convention they did for other updates would have worked fine. Like, you could have just listed out the spirit ashes that received this particular change, and then just been like, all of the following spirits won't stagger as easily. But I don't think you can write this in with a single action either, because not every spirit ash received this adjustment. So someone had to either write out this single phrase 80 something times, or write it once and then rapid fire copy paste it across most of this document. One of these had to happen. Some other changes include making the follow-up attack of Savage Lion's Claw easier to land, general adjustments made to all spirit ashes that went out of its way to exclude the Mimic tier from these changes, which I thought was kind of funny. You got a fucking buffet of upward adjustments, holy shit. Decreasing the attacks required to activate the buff, increasing the effect duration, and there were also some adjustments to KLS that increased the first bullet's damage while decreasing the rest. I don't even think it's that important, I'ma be honest, like that incantation still melts everything way too quickly. Golden Lion Shield gets more guard boost, Golem Fist gets broken for a couple patches, and a bunch of other balance changes to sorceries and incantations, most of which were buffs, which was greatly appreciated. The Golem Fist having a couple screws loose, I think people also appreciated. Perhaps a bit too much. Number 5, patch 1.06. This update wasn't quite as big as some of the others listed before it, but this patch was incredibly important to the health of the game, because this was the update that finally implemented what I think quite literally millions of players were asking for, which was a much needed nerf to the Rivers of Blood katana. Both the damage and bleed buildup of the unique skill was decreased by a noticeable amount. Bloodhound Step and Quick Step were both given greatly decreased travel distance, iframes, and even diminishing returns when used repeatedly, but you can, however, get some of that travel distance back if you're carrying a lightweight load. Having a lightweight load also increased your basic roll distance, and apparently this was a massive change because not only were videos surfacing of people just making fun of how far you could travel now if you were light rolling, but this change would just end up getting reverted anyways a few patches later during 1.09. Stars of Ruin also got a tracking nerf, which did feel kinda mean at the time, but honestly, I don't think it was ever like that big of a deal. What ended up being a much bigger deal was how comfortable melee combat felt versus what it was prior to this update. Guard counter motion speed was increased, heavy and charged heavy attacks took less time to land, and for great axes, not only was attack speed massively improved, but rolling after attacking was noticeably quicker as well. Granted, this didn't include jump attacks and power stance attacks, but I still think it was a welcome change. Great axes definitely aren't the best or most comfortable weapon class to use, but I feel like they've improved quite a bit over the course of the game. Number 4, patch 1.03. This update right here is what got public opinion marked completely out of my ranking criteria. I just can't do it. No matter where it goes, it would either misrepresent how bitter people would eventually get at the arcane scaling changes, or it would misrepresent how excited people were to actually finish the NPC quest lines, because this patch gave both in spades. Arcane scaling on weapons like Reduvia, Mog's Great Spear, and Eleonora's Pole Blade were fixed, but most notably a katana called Rivers of Blood, 1.03's most famous war crime. I can throw in sarcastic one-liners and over-dramatize all the circumstances I want, and I still don't think I could even get close to properly representing how existentially afraid people were of this weapon. This weapon is infamous to the point where I got comments in my all weapons ranked video telling me it was a mistake that Rivers of Blood wasn't in top 5, 16 months after it was nerfed. The level of wrath towards people who used this katana long after the nerf took place could match the Book of Revelations. But to front like this was the only memorable change in the entire patch would also be a bold, italicized 72-point font fucking fib. This was the patch that also fixed all the quests. Well, it didn't fix them, it just added new quest phases for a lot of the early game NPCs, but just about all the spells in the game got buffed. Hoarfrost Stomp, Sword of Night and Flame, and most other weapon ashes got nerfed. Smithing Stone drop rates were increased, Perfumes got buffed, Fire's Deadly Sin no longer spreads death holy shit. Damn, I completely forgot about this. Yeah, people straight up just couldn't play PvP for a while. Determination and RKR also experienced a bug that applied its buff to other sources of damage that wasn't the weapon you used it on. The visual effect of Unseen Form was adjusted. They fixed the dumb shit going on with the Erdtree Great Shield at the time, but they wrote it in as inconspicuously as possible, and I still don't know why. Like, listen to this. Fixed a bug that allows player to activate Erdtree's Great Shield weapon skill without absorbing an attack, using a special combination of item and incantation. Bro, just say it was Dumplings and Fire's Deadly Sin. Just say the names of the items in question, please. Like, you already patched it. What, are you afraid people are gonna try it again? Number 3, patch 1.07. I think if we're just including patches in the base game and not the DLC, this might be my favorite update. It hits all the right notes, adds all the right shit, none of the adjustments really sound overcomplicated or underexplained, and it established a system that allowed for PvP-specific adjustments to get ready for the Coliseum update that would hit next. I remember so many people flipping out over this. I think for like 15 full minutes, we actually built the delusion of thinking this game would eventually have good PvP. And it wasn't even all PvP changes. That was the central theme, obviously, but it still had regular balancing changes and bug fixes on top of that. Like, this shit was packed. I think just about every spell in the game was buffed in some capacity. Reduced FP consumption, more damage, quicker wind-up, or a combination of just multiple upward changes. Colossal swords and weapons both got slightly faster attack speed and slightly reduced recovery time on most attacks. Almost all the armors got a poise buff, and almost none of the adjustments listed in the update are downward or negative in any way. Like, if you were to just look at PvE changes, there is a massive weight in favor of buffs versus nerfs in both weapon ashes and spells. I think the only spells that got nerfed were the 2 Rotten Breath incantations that just down-tuned the status build up a bit, and that's it. And only 3 weapon skills got nerfed, which were Shield Crash, Seppuku, and Blood Boon Ritual, none of which felt really that significant. Like, Seppuku is still one of the best bleed ashes in the game, the Shield Crash nerf only had to do with status build-up because Palisade Shield was bullshit, and Blood Boon Ritual only had its range decreased, and only against other players. Even the bug fixes in this update read mostly in an upward direction, like fixed a bug where the Roar Medallion now works with Regal Roar, or fucking Shriek of Milos works now, or like something to that effect. Good patch, great patch, honestly. Number 2, patch 1.08. Okay, so let's all just cast aside the benefit of hindsight for a moment. You were pumped as fuck for this. Okay, so 3 arenas. You got one in Limgrave, you got one in Caelid, and you got one in Leyndell. You can engage in a variety of different combat trials, including 1v1s, a fan favorite, free-for-alls, team battles of up to 6 players, and even a special mode that included spirit summoning into the mix, which honestly, that just sounded fun as fuck. Like, do you know how difficult it is to make me care about anything having to do with playing the game with other people? If this update had my antisocial ass looking forward to going online, I'm gonna be honest, you did something pretty impressive. There's a lot of various upward and downward tunings to how a lot of different weapon classes now operate, but the main takeaways are basically just hammers are actually good now, Moonveil's weapon skill finally got nerfed after 5 consecutive months of community-wide bitch rituals, Flame of the Redmanes basically just got his balls cut off, Frag Blade and Gravity Bolt both deal less poise damage, and in PvP, Bestial Slaying gets less poise, Carian Slicer gets fucking neutered, like holy shit, Jesus. And lastly, and most importantly, new hairstyles. Like, okay, I guess retroactively a lot of us can say how disappointing this update was, but this game had me unironically excited to get into duels with other people. And to this day, I have no idea how this company even did that. Now let's maybe get to work on some covenants soon. Soon? Yeah, maybe in patch 1.70 shit or something. Whatever, I'm not funny. I'm not playing Duskbloods, by the way. Stop asking for it. I'm not buying a fucking Switch. I'm not buying a Switch just for one game. Whatever, I'm just gonna move on. Number 1, patch 1.12. 1.12 was the DLC update. It contained the goddamned DLC. And somehow, against all reasonable expectations, even this is an undersell, because it actually contained a lot more than just the DLC. There were some changes made to the game here that I didn't even know about. And my ass gets everything right. It contained the DLC and everything that came with it, yes, but it also contained lots of preemptive buffs, nerfs, and tweaks to base game weapons and tools that would end up being affected by tools in the DLC. The Divine Beast Talisman, for example, improves the potency of storms by 10%, so anything related to storms pretty much got buffed by it. Storm Blade, Storm Assault, Storm Stomp, Thunderstorm on the Stormhawk Axe, Storm Kick on the Veteran's Prosthesis, well, at least the first half of it, and even sorceries and weapon skills like Zaymor Ice Storm would get affected affected by it. Dread Talisman increases magma damage by 14%. Well, goddamn, that's another round of tweaks we have to make room for to compensate for the new V8 Torquester we just installed, so let's just go on ahead and nerf Taker's Flames and Magma Shower, give the Gelmir staff better scaling, and pretend Magma Guillotine just doesn't exist, I guess. Yeah, you think this one's fine? You nerfed everything else, but this one gets a pass. Fuck me. There are little instances of this being done all over the patch notes, not just to compensate for tools in the DLC, but even throwing in shit people had been begging for since day one. New hairstyles, better deck scaling on weapon infusions, faster bows, better poise damage on torches, being able to summon Torrent in the Elden Beast fight. Line after line of cold, hard, empirically evidenced, MLA-sided motherfucking proof that the team behind this game showed up to work and actually gave a shit. They even poked around in the UI and found a way to make that better. The recent items tab got added, FP consumed by skills got added into the Ash of War display information, display settings can now be changed from the display tab in the system menu. What the fuck is this one talking about again? Is it saying you can adjust display shit in like the game's main menu now, or is it just adding a new tab called display? Because I kind of felt like this was always here. There's no way this was a DLC edition. If it took them 12 main patches to add in something like this, then holy fuck.